The biggest problem with most Spark architecture videos on YouTube is this. We click the video because we genuinely want to understand what happens when we run PySpark code. But within a few seconds, we hear words like driver, executor, cluster manager, job, stage, task, shuffle, catalyst optimizer, and AQE, etc. etc. The explanation may be technically correct, but it usually assumes we already know how all these things connect. So by the end, we may remember a few definitions, but we still do not clearly know what actually happens after we hit the run button. And that is why Spark architecture feels very confusing. Not because Spark is impossible, but because we are trying to learn it as a completely new technical vocabulary. And here is the interesting part. A lot of us are already working in IT projects, right? And the way we plan work, divide it, assign it, track it, handle delays, and complete it is actually very similar to how Spark also does its work. And when we connect to Spark to something we already see in our real work life, it starts becoming very, very easy. So in this video, we will not just memorize definitions. We will first walk through how work moves inside a normal IT project. Then we will take one simple PySpark example, and while that code runs, we will connect every Spark term back to the same story. Now, imagine it is a Monday morning. Let's say a new project comes to our team and there is final outcome that needs to be delivered. Now, the project manager or tech lead does not simply tell everyone to start working right away, right? First, they need to understand what needs to be delivered and what work is required to get there. Then they create an initial plan. They see which work can begin immediately, which work depends on something else, and which parts can move in parallel. But a plan alone is not enough, right? They also need capacity. They need to know who is available, who is already busy on another project, which environments are ready, and how much work the team can realistically take on. Then the larger project gets divided into smaller work items, and you may create the work items in Jira or somewhere, right? And different teammates receive different assignments, but many people can start working at the same time. The project manager or tech lead is not personally completing every assignment. They normally kind of manage the overall execution, right? They are checking whether the work is moving, whether someone is blocked, whether something is delayed, and whether the plan still makes sense. And before serious work begins, the team may improve that plan. Maybe some work is unnecessary, maybe something can be reused, and maybe there is much better technical approach. Then real work begins, and reality gives us more information as well. That is, maybe one assignment is much bigger than expected, maybe one teammate is blocked, maybe one dependency takes longer. So the plan changes while the project is already moving, and the lead may split work differently, move it to another teammate, or change the order of what happens next, right? Then there are moments when separate pieces of work have to come together, and also each person may have completed their own assignment, but the next phase cannot begin until all related pieces are brought together and reorganized, right? And that handoff may take time, but it is very necessary. Now keep this in your mind, because this is very, very important, because Spark does the same kind of work management, but instead of managing people and project assignments, Spark manages data work across multiple machines. Let's say we have millions of restaurant reviews stored in S3 bucket, and we want to count how many times every word appears. Our PySpark code may look like this, and when we submit this code using Spark submit like this, Spark starts one running application, and this full running application is like the full project from our story. In Spark, we call it a Spark application. Now, every project needs someone to understand the final objective, make the plan, get the right capacity, assign work, track progress, and handle problems, right? In Spark, that role is called the driver. The driver is like the project manager and the tech lead role combined. It runs our main Spark program, creates the Spark session, understands the operations we wrote, creates an execution plan, asks for resources, sends work to executors, and tracks the whole application. So the driver manages the overall execution. It does not personally read every review file, split every word, or calculate every count. Just like the tech lead in our project story does not personally finish every assignment. Now look at these lines of code. At this point, Spark has not necessarily read all the data or calculated the final count. It is first understanding what we want to do. This is called the logical plan. The logical plan is like the first version of our project plan. It says that Spark needs to read review files, split the text into words, bring the same words together, count them, and show the result. Then Spark reviews that plan before it starts the heavy work. This is where Catalyst Optimizer comes in. Catalyst is Spark's optimizer for data frame and SQL operations. It looks for ways to make the plan more efficient. It may remove columns we do not need, move filters earlier, simplify expressions, and avoid unnecessary work. So Catalyst is like the technical review that happens before the team starts spending serious effort. After that, Spark creates a physical plan. The logical plan says what needs to happen. The physical plan says how Spark will actually make it happen across the cluster. It decides how work can be divided, what can run in parallel, and where data movement may be needed. Then when the job starts, Spark can learn more from the real real workload. Maybe one partition is much bigger than the others. Maybe one side of a join is much smaller than Spark expected. So Spark can adjust some decisions while the work is running. And that is AQE, which means adaptive query execution. It is like the lead changing the project plan after seeing what is actually happening instead of blindly following the original plan forever. Now, the driver has the plan, but it still needs people to do the actual work, right? And in Spark, those workers are called executors. And executors are like the teammates working on their assigned pieces of work. They read data, run transformations, perform joins, calculate aggregations, create intermediate results, and write output. Then they send progress back to the driver, which is like our project manager. But just like a project lead cannot pull unlimited people into a project whenever they want, the driver cannot simply create unlimited executors. It needs available capacity. That is where the cluster manager comes in. The cluster management is like the resource management side of the company. The driver asks for resources and the cluster manager checks what is available. It provides a CPU cores, memory, machines, containers, and executor processes. And here, the cluster manager can be Yarn, Kubernetes, Spark Standalone, or a managed platform behind Databricks, EMR, Glue, or Synapse as well. Basically, the platform can change, but the idea stays the same. The driver decides what work needs to happen like our project manager. The cluster manager provides the capacity like our resource management team, and executors do the actual work like our teammates. Now, there is one small distinction that confuses many people. That is, an executor is the Spark worker process, but a worker node is the machine, virtual machine, container, or the pod where that executor runs. So, the executor is like the teammate doing the work, while the worker node is like the place where the teammate is sitting. Let's say our application gets 10 executors. Each executor has 4 CPU cores and 8 GB memory, and a core is like an active work slot. So, one executor with 4 cores can usually run around 4 tasks at the same time. That means 10 executors with 4 cores can provide around 40 task slots. That is how Spark gets parallelism. But more task slots do not automatically mean faster execution. And most importantly, tasks running inside the same executor share its memory as well. So, when too many heavy tasks run at once, the executor can become overloaded as well. We will go much deeper into executor memory in the next videos, but for now, remember that cores decide how much work can happen at once, while memory is the working space those tasks share. Now, let's talk about tasks and partitions. In our project story, one task is one small assignment given to a teammate, right? And in Spark, a task is also a small assignment sent to an executor, which is like a teammate. But Spark also needs to tell the task exactly which data it should process, and that data chunk is called a partition. So, a task is the assignment and a partition is the piece of data attached to that assignment. One task may process one group of review files and another task may process a different group of review files, and different executors can run those tasks at the same time. That is how Spark divides huge data work into smaller pieces and spreads it across the cluster. And since our data is stored in S3, executors read their assigned files or file paths from a remote object storage over the network. And Spark does not copy the entire dataset to every executor. Each executor reads only the part it needs. Now, let's come back to our code. These lines describe the work, but they do not yet tell Spark to produce an actual answer. And this below line does that. Here, show is an action. And when we call an action, Spark creates a job. And a job is like the full amount of work Spark needs to complete in order to give us that result. Now, Spark does not execute one giant job all at once. It divides the job into stages. And a stage is like a major phase of work, just like a larger project phase, where related work can move forward together. For our example, Spark can read review files and split them into words, but then it reaches this. Now, the word cold may exist in many different partitions. The word food may exist in many different partitions, and the word late may exist in many different partitions as well. To calculate the final count correctly, all occurrences of the same word needs to come together, right? So, all cold values need to meet, all food values need to meet, and all late values need to meet. That regrouping is called the shuffle. It is like the point in our project where work completed separately has to be brought together and reorganized before the next phase can begin. And shuffle moves data between executors so related records can come together. And because data may move across the network, use disk, use memory, and use CPU, so shuffle can be very expensive. But Spark does not shuffle for no reason. It shuffles because the next stage needs the data grouped differently. And after the shuffle, Spark can start the next stage and produce the final word counts. So the flow is now connected. The driver understands the work and creates the plan. Catalyst Optimizer improves the plan. Spark creates a physical plan for execution. The driver gets capacity from the cluster manager. Executor receives tasks. Each task processes a partition and action triggers a job and the job is divided into stages, and shuffle appears when data from separate partitions needs to come together. Now, what happens when something fails? Let's say in our project, when one teammate becomes unavailable because of sickness or because he left the company, the whole project does not always need to restart from day one, right? The lead can see what was unfinished and assign that work to someone else. Spark can do something similar as well. So, if one task fails, Spark can retry that task, and if one executor dies, Spark can run unfinished work on another executor. And Spark can do this because it remembers how the output was supposed to be created. And this history is called a lineage. Lineage tells Spark what earlier steps created a piece of data, so Spark can often recompute only the last work instead of restarting the whole application. And Spark UI is where we can see this entire project story happening in real time. We can see jobs, stages, tasks, executors, shuffle data, failures, retries, and time taken as well. And that is where we stop guessing and start seeing what Spark actually did. So now, when someone says that the driver manages execution, you should think of the project leader, project manager who plans, coordinates, tracks progress, and handles problems, right? And when someone says executors do the work, you should think of your teammates completing their assigned work. And when someone says the cluster manager provides resources, you should think of the system that checks available capacity and gives the project the machines, CPU, memory, and workers it can use. And when someone says tasks, process, partitions, you should think of a small work assignment and the exact data chunk attached to it. So Spark architecture is one connected story. A final outcome is requested by action. A plan is created and improved. Resources are assigned. Work is split into smaller pieces. Multiple workers run in parallel. Separate results come together when needed. The plan adjusts when reality changes. And failures are recovered without restarting everything. And this is what exactly happens to our PySpark code after we hit run. Now, I hope you understood the Spark architecture in more clearer and better way. But if you have any questions, feel free to comment down below. I will try to answer as soon as possible. Thank you for watching.